telling me what this is all about?
Yes, it's about peace, love and understanding. There's not a lot of it about. Spain can't even get on with each other. Get Elvis Costello on the phone and he'll sing it to us. And concerning Manchester United, ha 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 ha. It's not a Manchester United thing, it's a Jose Mourinho thing. I just can't stand him. I can't stand his face, and I can't stand his smile, and I can't stand his hair, and I can't stand his suit, I can't stand anything about him. I hate him, I hate him. But anyway, I do wish him all the best, just as long as he doesn't, win a lot. Regardless of the team he happens to be managing at the time. It's not a Man U thing, it's just a Jose Mourinho I can't stand. Whew. Well, I'm glad I got that off my chest. Blowy out there, eh? It's a shame at this time of year we were promised the leaves were going to be super fantastic this time of or this year around.
Groovy.
Yeah, groovy. They said it was going to be super fantastic.
Yowza.
The leaves on the trees, the colour that they were going to bring us, and they just got all blown off. Brian, thanks a lot, Brian. So it's going to be raining in Wales and Ireland. Well. Yeah, I would expect so. It's always raining in Wales and Ireland. That's not a weather forecast. That's just the constant day-to-day life of if you choose to live in Wales and Ireland, that's what you get. I bet it's going to be raining in Glasgow. It wasn't mentioned on the news, but I bet it will. I'll just check for you. I have an app. Yep, heavy rain tonight. Tomorrow, raining. Monday, raining. Tuesday, raining. Wednesday, raining. Thursday. Oh, not raining on Thursday. There's something to look forward to. Can you believe that?
No.
Not raining in Glasgow this Thursday. Wow. Scotland should call a national holiday. I spent 3 months living in Glasgow and it rained every single day. Of course, I did make the mistake of those 3 months being January, February and March, so I suppose it's my fault. But come on, how can it rain every day? It's a beautiful city. I love it a lot. I can't stand the weather. So this North Korea thing isn't going away fast. Pyongyang says they do not plan to hold any talks with Washington about its nuclear program because of the dotard in the White House.
You are going to love President Trump.
He just keeps poking them. Possessing nuclear weapons was a matter of life and death for North Korea, said the Director General of the North American Department of North Korea's Foreign Ministry. There apparently is such a thing. The North American Department of North Korea's Foreign Ministry said possessing nuclear weapons was a matter of life and death for North Korea. Apparently it's a matter of life and death for us. Why we need them so much, I've never been able to figure out. No one's ever explained it to me. Our world-famous NHS is turning people away because we can't afford to restore their sight, and we can't afford to restore their knees, and we can't afford to restore their hips, or pretty much do anything at all other than make them wait in the corridor. And we're spending hundreds of billions of pounds. It's an open cheque we're spending for weapons of mass destruction that, by all accounts, we'll never use, not now, not ever, never. Why do we need them? If you know, please let me know, because I don't know. And I've never been able to figure it out, why we, a small, relatively insignificant banking racket off the coast of Europe, needs weapons of mass destruction. What for? Still, it's very profitable, I suppose. Cho Son-hui. You know Cho Son-hui, don't you? He is the Director General of the North American Department of North Korea's Foreign Ministry. He told a non-proliferation... Get this. He told a non-proliferation of nuclear weapons conference in Moscow that the United States would have to put up with North Korea's nuclear status. And Donald Trump said...
I'd like to punch him in the face.
Yeah. It's a proportionate response. He went all the way to Moscow to a non-proliferation conference to say that we're going to get nuclear weapons and there's nothing you can do about it. Representing North Korea at a non-proliferation of nuclear weapons conference, declaring that North Korea is going to get nuclear weapons. That makes as much sense as anything else I've heard so far this year. Cho Son-hui, the Director General of the North American Department of North Korea's Foreign Ministry, said the current situation deepens our understanding that we need nuclear weapons to repel a potential attack. We will respond to fire with fire. And the current situation means you know who.
I can be more presidential than anybody.
He is the current situation. He is the man with the questionable temperament.
But I have a strong temperament, and it's a very good temperament, and it's a very in-control temperament. I have a very strong temperament, but I have a temperament that's totally under control.
I keep saying it. Just imagine anybody, any other world leader, or the guy that runs the taxi firm down the end of your road. Just imagine if he had said that. You'd be backing away and calling the police while you were doing it. Still, we're living through this period. You know, for as long as it lasts. And in the future, people will be staring boggle-eyed at the history books of this period right now, thinking, well, what? You've got to be kidding me. This has to be fiction, doesn't it? But we're living through it right now. North Korea's deputy UN ambassador said that Pyongyang would not put its nuclear arsenal or ballistic missile program on the table unless Washington drops its hostile stance. Well, over to you, Donnie.
I'll bring us into war.
So it's not happening, Kim. Of course they need nuclear weapons in North Korea. They need them more than we do. Nobody's threatening us. Apart from the French president, but he's only threatening us financially. Not actually threatening to come in and kill us all, like Donnie is threatening North Korea to rain fire. It's gonna be huge. A huge fire. Kim's regime has made no secrets of its efforts to develop an intercontinental ballistic missile capable of hitting the US mainland cities. Because if the US is run by an unstable egomaniac who threatens to rain apocalyptic fire down on them, they'd be crazy not to want to be able to do the same to the US. You're making it worse, Donnie. Yeah, I'm on the verge of thinking that you're not a nice person.
Donald Trump is a very nice person.
Once again, I stand corrected. Just imagine if Theresa May had said that. If Theresa May had said, Theresa May is a very nice person, what would you think of her? But because it's Donald Trump, people think, oh, well, that's just Donald Trump. The North Koreans have been testing... Did you hear this? The North Koreans have been testing so many nuclear weapons under one of their mountains. I read the other day that the whole mountain is on the verge of collapsing. They've killed a mountain in North Korea. The CIA director Mike Pompeo said that Kim's regime is on the cusp of getting a nuclear missile capable of striking US targets. And that President Donald Dotard is determined to prevent North Korea from making the breakthrough. They're on the cusp, and Donnie wants to stop them he wants to push them back from the cusp. Maybe you should build a wall around them. Now, why didn't that work? Maybe you should build a wall around them.
I'm building a wall.
There you go.
Okay, I'm building a wall. I'm building a wall.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm building a wall.
He's not building a wall, and Mexico isn't going to pay for it. The CIA director and the U.S. National Security Advisor, H.R. Pufnstuf, said that Trump would still prefer to use sanctions and diplomacy to force Kim to come to the table to discuss disarmament. Does that sound like what Donald Trump would say?
No.
No. Not even close. Donald Trump would never utter any of those words. That Trump would prefer to use sanctions and diplomacy. You can't fit those words in a tweet. Sanctions and diplomacy to force Kim to come to the table to discuss disarmament. That is not what Trump would say. I bet the CIA director and the US National Security Advisor put that information out without asking Trump first. Maybe they gave him a chew toy to amuse himself while the adults took charge. And speaking to a Washington policy forum, they both of these, the CIA director and the US National Security Advisor, warned that the use of military force remains an option to prevent Pyongyang from acquiring a long-range nuclear missile, which means that, whoopee, we're all going to die. How can owning nukes be good for us and the United States of America, but bad for everybody else? That's what makes me curious. Who made us in charge? Either it promotes peace or it doesn't. That's why we're told over and over again that we must spend an ungodly amount of money on a weapons system that we apparently will never use because it promotes peace. So maybe everybody should have one. Don't that make sense? Who don't want more peace in the world? And if it doesn't promote peace, can we save the 100 or 200 billion pounds and spend it on technology to save life instead of ending it? Just curious. Or does that make me a loony left-wing bearded tree-hugging hippie?
Well, the whole world's gone crazy.
Yeah, that's about the sum of it. So from weapons of mass destruction and a weapon of mass distraction, which is, the orange nightmare in the White House.
Donald Trump is not a nice person.
That's what I suspect. There's this. Weapons that are, with which we are arming the police without actually arming the police. It's like a halfway house, which doesn't seem to solve any of the problems that actually confront our police persons. Chief constables are considering for the very first time whether frontline officers should be armed with a taser. And the answer is...
No.
No. They should not be armed with a taser. They should be armed with guns, like every other police force in the modern world. They're considering for the first time whether every frontline officer should be armed with a taser. I thought they already were. What they carry around in their bat belts? The fear is that soaring street violence and no end in sight to the threat of further terrorist strikes means officers need a stun gun to protect themselves. Because that's what will protect you from a terrorist with a gun. A little thing that shoots electric wires. And if you miss with those wires, which you probably will under great stress, they'll just lie there limply on the ground, as useful as a light on a life jacket. You know, they try to make you feel a little bit more positive about smashing into the ocean in an airliner. Because under your seat, which you won't find because you'll be floating, but under your seat is a life preserver. All you have to do is put it on and put these straps around you, and there's a little whistle and a light which will save your life. So one leader of the police called for a national discussion on whether the US-made weapons, these tasers, should be standard issue alongside handcuffs and a metal baton and CS spray. Why are we even thinking about this? The rest of the world arms their police to the teeth, and we're still kidding ourselves that it's the 1950s, and that all criminals will stop in their tracks if a policeman blows his whistle and shouts, "Halt!" You know, like Dixon or Doc Green. The Police Federation want more tasers, but some people say that it's a move too far. I say it's not far enough. This seems to come round on a regular basis. Why don't our police have guns? It's not like they don't need them. Senior advisors are concerned, says the Mail, that any move could backfire if officers are barred from patrolling if they fail to meet exacting taser training standards. Well, is this a controversial thing to say? But I think that if they fail to meet those standards, perhaps they shouldn't be in the police at all. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Dorsey of the Metropolitan Police said the discussion should take place in, guess what time period? They're really rushing this. The Deputy Assistant Commissioner Dorsey of the Metropolitan Police said that this discussion should take place in the next 5 years. What? You know, no rush. It's not like there's increasing crime or anything. Oh no, that's right, there is. I looked it up to see where we were in the crime statistics compared to other countries. And the last figures I could find were for 2011. And nothing much has changed since then, has it? Has life changed dramatically since 2011?
Negative.
No, it's pretty much the same wherever you look. So let's assume that these figures are still accurate. We're the most violent country in Europe. Did you know that? And we're the only country in Europe that doesn't regularly arm its police. There were 722 murders in Britain in 2011. It's the highest number in Western Europe, 722. I don't know what it is about this country, but we seem to top the worst rankings in virtually everything you can think of. We take more drugs, we take more drink, we're pregnant more early. All sorts of unpleasant, sticky shenanigans.
Disgusting.
If it's bad, we top the table. 722 murders in Britain, 682 in France, 690 in Germany, 390 in Spain, 529 in Italy. In Italy.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's the wrong one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. 52 in Switzerland. 436 in Poland, 179 in the Netherlands, and so on. 722 murders in Britain. And we're the only ones that don't arm our police with the tools that are necessary for their trade, or that every other country on earth thinks are necessary for their trade. You know, you'd have to go to Ukraine and Russia to get a worse murder rate than we've got right here. But I don't recommend that you do that without wearing a flak jacket, because their murder rate's off the scale. And don't even think about going to Brazil, because, yeah, you'll be lucky to make it out of the airport. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Dorsey of the Metropolitan Police said, "I do not want this to be seen as a backdoor way of arming the police service. Tasers should be an option for people, but it's the last option as it is there to save lives." But I'd suggest that that's the opposite of the truth. It doesn't save lives. That's the problem with tasers. Because you use them in the expectation that they won't take a life, which might make their use a bit more casual than if you had an actual real-life gun, for instance. But think of it, a massive electrical shock. I don't know the exact electrical charge that it presents with the people that it sticks into, so I'll make it up. Isn't it something like 70,000 volts? Well, that can't be good for you. If it's over 250 volts, it could kill you. So it's not. It may not save lives. It might actually take more. Bizarrely. And against what you might think logically, whatever that word is, I can't think of what the word is. Counterintuitively, that's not it either, but that'll do. It might take more lives than actual real-life guns, because you wouldn't expect to kill somebody, so it might make you more inclined to use it. Unless I'm getting any of this wrong, in which case you must correct me. A massive electrical shock can kill you. Just ask anyone that's been hit by lightning. And for the policemen that have them, they've now got a new super-duper, much improved two-shot version. So when you fumble in your pocket and shoot the first one, it misses and lies limply on the ground. You'll still have a backup one to shoot yourself in the foot with. It's on a wire. If they're standing more than 6 feet away, you ain't going to hit them. Police chiefs will be able to hand tasers to... Now, this is where it gets alarming to me. Because it's supposedly non-lethal, there is a small element of training, or a less of an element of training involved than if they were guns. Police chiefs are going to be able to hand tasers to probationary officers, as in those with fewer than 2 years' experience in the new year. They're also discussing whether volunteer special constables should be allowed, because they say they face the same dangers as paid colleagues. The special police...
Oh, no!
Call me crazy, but I would prefer professional, highly trained, armed officers than poorly trained rookies with bright yellow plastic death toys. One survey found an overwhelming majority of officers support issuing tasers to all those on the front line. 82% said, hell yes. I don't know what the percentage is for officers to who support getting actual real-life proper guns, you know, the proper tools of a police person's trade. But it doesn't matter to me. If that's the requirement of the job, then that's what they get. And if they don't want that, then go do another job. And there's always concerns about any change, which is why people are so resistant to it. There's always going to be some person that complains. Campaigners are concerned that it may be necessary to lower standards if the weapon's to be carried by all officers. No, don't lower standards. Increase standards. I know we don't do well with education in this country, but if we're going to give people weapons that might kill you, then at least they should be trained up to a certain level. These campaigners fear that officers may rush to use tasers to tackle suspects before exhausting every other option to resolve confrontations without violence. Well, that's pretty much what I said, that they'd be more inclined to use something that is not supposedly a dealer of death, but could quite possibly be. A person whose name I'm not making up, called Oliver Feely-Sprague of Amnesty International, said arming all officers with tasers risks changing the face of British policing. Well, British policing solves 1 in 10 burglaries. There was a 19% increase in the number of sexual offences recorded in England and Wales. 5.2 million crimes in the year to the end of June, up by 13% in the previous 12 months. Maybe the face of British policing needs changing, because whatever's happening now ain't working. Here's a call in Hounslow. Oh, Malcolm.
Hi, Nick.
Malcolm.
You said earlier you wanted to be corrected if you got anything wrong.
Yes.
So, it's not voltage. Voltage doesn't kill people. It's the current it produces. So you can be hit with 250 volts and survive it. You can be hit by millions of volts from a lightning strike and survive it. It's current that kills, not voltage. Okay.
What's the difference between the two?
Do you really want to go into that? I mean,
yes.
Voltage is a measure of what we call potential difference. It's an energy level. It's a difference in energy levels between two positions, right?
Right. You know when I said that I wanted you to explain it to me?
Yeah.
I rescind that request.
Okay.
All right. Thanks very much, Malcolm. Cheers, mate. Wow, this show is an education, ain't it?
No.
I have no idea what he was talking about. 0345 6060 973. Just as long as I'm not in danger of learning anything, that's okay. Here's a call in West Hampstead. Hello, Daniel.
Hi, Nick. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, so I was going to say as well about the voltage and ampage. I was a police officer for 10 years, and my colleagues and I used tasers, and it's one of the things we're taught was that it's 50,000 volts, so you're only 20,000 volts out, but it's the ampage, the current, that kills you, not the voltage. So you can have 50,000 volts from a taser, but it's a very, very low current. So it just incapacitates your nervous system and your muscles temporarily, and causes you to fall to the floor. And yeah.
Well, why do they need 50,000 volts if I don't get it?
Because it causes a lot of pain at that level of voltage. It overwhelms your
Right.
your brain.
So that's like the cherry on the cake. The ampage incapacitates you, and the voltage causes you an enormous amount of pain as a side benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we used to say. But the great thing about having a taser, as you quite rightly said, big yellow looking gun on your belt, is that when you take out the big yellow gun, the taser, and show it to someone, and then point the little red laser dot on their chest and say you are going to be electrocuted with 50,000 volts, that tends to sort of worry the criminals, and they tend to drop whatever weapon they've got in their hand at the time.
But isn't that assuming they're within striking distance? How far do they fire?
So they fire surprisingly quite a long distance, about 20 up to 25 feet. You can shoot a taser.
There's no way you're going to hit something 25 feet away.
Well, it is unlikely, because the further away you are, the wider the barbs, the two probes, the wider they'll be.
Yeah.
So you do need to be within, ideally 5, 6, 7, 8 feet from someone. But it's the deterrent, Nick. The thing that we found was that in 7 to 8 out of 10 violent incidents where people had a bottle, a knife, a weapon, they were threatening extreme violence. 7, 8 times out of 10 of those incidents, the people would drop whatever weapon they had as soon as you red dotted them, laser dotted their chest with a taser and said, "This is a taser. You will be shot with 50,000 volts." So it's a very effective tool.
Has anybody said, well, it's not the voltage that incapacitates you?
No, funnily enough, they didn't. But
never mind about the voltage. What kind of ampage are you running there?
we didn't have anyone saying that,
Right.
Nick. But I just want to say as well, funnily enough, talking about you did mention the Deputy Commissioner Dorsey,
Yeah.
who, funnily enough, when I was in the Met, she's a very nice lady. She was a chief inspector, so she's done very well, and I have a lot of respect for her. And she actually said thank you to me for saving my colleague's life when I could have done with having a taser, but I only had to use my steel baton. We had a crazy guy who was high on drugs, and it turned out he was an ex-Angolan paratrooper who was illegally in the country, and he attacked my colleague, tried to strangle her, and I had to hit him repeatedly over the head with my metal steel baton. And I could have done with having a taser then, but I didn't.
Let me ask you this. Couldn't you have also, or wouldn't it have been better if you had been equipped with the thing that almost every other police force in the world is equipped with, and that's a real-life proper gun?
No, because it's a really interesting question. I don't think so, because with a gun, it's either all or nothing. It's either, if you shoot someone with a gun, you're more likely to kill them, even if you shoot them in a non-core place. If you shoot them anywhere else, even other than the chest, you're more likely to kill someone like that.
But that would be part of your available weaponry. Presumably, you'd still also have your handcuffs, and you'd have your metal baton, and I don't know if the American police have tasers as well as guns. They probably do. There's all sorts of exciting things they can stick up your bat belt.
You're right. We do carry a lot of equipment already. Obviously, we have handcuffs, CS spray, a steel baton, taser. You're right, but the issue with that is there are two arguments. One is that members of the public, I dare say now they would probably get more used to it, but members of the public would be more frightened to approach police officers if we were armed with a handgun.
I don't buy that. I mean, we all go on holiday, and every country we go to, almost without exception, is full of police that've got guns. We're completely used to it. What is a bit alarming is the police that we see that are armed on the streets with those like machine gun type looking things that it looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger should be toting. Those guys do look a bit alarming. But if it's just a holster, you don't even sort of notice it. It's not going to stop you going up and asking a police person the time.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think, ironically, these days, I think people have got more used to seeing armed police, and I guess with the current terror threat, people would probably more like to see more armed officers. But the other problem is with actually getting the people to carry them, because a lot of police officers, I don't know if you remember a few years ago, a lot of police officers actually handed in or threatened to hand in their they're called the blue cards. They're the firearms authorization cards to be an authorized firearms officer, because of all the scrutiny and the legal, there were police officers, armed officers were being suspended for years during pending investigations. And I think, a lot of police officers said, well, it's not worth our life doing it. It's not worth our while doing it.
But what's weird to me is that we are not a part of the majority. There's almost no other country on earth that does not regularly arm all of its police officers. So if they can do it, why do we find it so hard?
Well, I agree with you. I think I've been of the opinion for quite a few years exactly that I go on holiday a lot to Spain, go to France, I've been to Russia quite a lot, and you regularly see them with you're quite right, with a sidearm in the holster, a handgun.
Yeah, they all have it. It's not regularly, it's they all do.
I know, but there's a lack. Nick, there's a big problem in the UK. There's a lack of political will. Politicians, and I found this being in the Met, in the police. A lot of the very senior officers and the politicians have got this. They are terrified. They're scared of regular police becoming an armed police force. And it's a political thing.
Why would they be scared of that? Isn't it more than just they're scared of change? They're scared of doing anything that might get a negative response from the public, so they just like to do nothing.
Correct. They are terrified. They are terrified of a negative political response from the public. They really are. They are so conscious of that. And it was frustrating. It was frustrating a lot of times, wanting to see things implemented, and the senior leaders, oh no, we can't do that. Wonder what the members of the public will say. And instead of actually just having the guts to go to say, this is an operational necessity. The threat has changed. We need to do this. They just pander to
to their fear of doing anything, for fear of the reaction that it might get. But I think, you know what? I think now, if they actually wanted to make the change to join the rest of the world, now's the time to do it, because people would be prepared to accept it. They can pretty much, the government can pretty much take away most of our rights for fear of terrorist attacks. I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to install cameras in our front rooms. People would say, oh, well, as long as it's going to make us safe. So I think if they want to arm the police, now's the time to do it, because I don't think people would be bothered one way or the other. I think they would actually welcome it.
Well, you know what, Nick, you know what I think they should do? I think they should increase, never mind about arming the police, increase the number of parking wardens. People are terrified of them. They're everywhere, aren't they? No one's more scared of anything than parking wardens. These criminals, they leave their car somewhere, come back and it's been towed away. They got a ticket on it. So just deploy more parking wardens. That'll do the trick.
Let me just ask you one thing before I let you go. Crime in England and Wales soared by 13% in 1 year. Why? What are we going to do about that?
It's a combination. It's a very interesting question. It's first of all, nothing to do with the dotard's moronic tweet about radical Islam. It's two reasons. Number one, it's the government cuts in frontline policing, lack of resources in frontline policing, and it's also the rise of 13% in crime is due to, over the last 10 years, the pathetic sentencing of criminals in the criminal justice system. We obviously it's the 80-20 rule. Okay, so 80% of the crime in the UK is committed by 20%. The minority of criminals commit the majority of crime, and those prolific criminals seem to get let off so lightly by the ridiculous criminal justice system in this country. They go to, they get community rehabilitation orders and suspended sentences. The prolific burglars, robbers, car thieves, the ones who are committing the majority of the crime, when they go to court, they seem to get let off. And when ordinary members of the public who commit the slightest infraction go in front of the magistrates, in front of the judges, they get hauled over the coals and get sent down for a long time. So the rise in crime is due to lack of resources in frontline policing and the stress on frontline policing, and an appalling lack of justice in the criminal justice system that aren't penalising the really serious villains.
Maybe you should red dot some judges.
Oh, Nick, I'd love to, Nick. Oh, boy, would I love to. Gosh.
All right, thanks a lot, Daniel. 0345, Daniel, they're a Met officer for 10 years.
He is a very sick and dangerous man.
Some texts and tweets. Graham says, if the big powers hadn't got nukes during the Cold War, there would probably have been the most destructive hot war ever. But if there has ever been a time to get rid of the things, it's now. Let's do it. Let's unilaterally disarm ourselves. Julian says, don't worry, Trump won't nuke North Korea until his popularity ratings dip below 0. You can't go below 0. Can you? Well, maybe Trump will find a way. He says when Trump's popularity ratings dip below 0, then he'll blow them to pieces. North Korea. So as long as Donny remains so popular, we are okay. Poor Donny. He's been unsuccessful at everything he's ever tried.
I've been successful in every business I've been in.
Yeah, like I say, I stand corrected once again. And here's a reason why the crime figures may have gone up. And the fellow that I was just talking to alluded to this. Well, he did more than allude to it. He said it out loud. Police numbers, including the number of armed officers, have fallen sharply under Theresa May's watch, first as Home Secretary and then as Prime Minister. Thanks a lot, Theresa May. No! The simple numbers tell the story, says The Guardian. This is from 4 months ago. In 2010, Theresa May, as Home Secretary, made the mistake that Margaret Thatcher never made and agreed to a Treasury demand to cut police budgets by 18%. Over the next 5 years, the number of police officers in England and Wales fell from a peak of 144,000 in 2009 to 122,000 in 2016, which sounds like a loss of about 22,000 officers to me. We even lost specialist armed officers. There was 6,700 odd in 2010, 5,600 last year. We lost over 1,000 specialist armed police officers at a point where we're in, apparently, so we keep being told day after day, we're in more danger now than ever before. Theresa May, it's not like she didn't know. She was told that cutting police funding was making a big mistake. Huge. And she went ahead and did it anyway. The Maybot. There were over 6,000 fewer firearms offences in... anyway, this article goes on and on. But that might be informative. Crime in England and Wales has soared by 13% in 1 year. 1 year! With an even bigger rise in violent offences, including knife crime and sexual offences. People talk about terror, but that's pretty terrible homegrown crime right there. If you want to be terrified, don't get terrified of terrorism. Just get terrified of the people who are living next door to you. Chelsea, hello, Steve.
Nick.
Steve.
Yeah, well, I think you've just hit on the subject about the reduction in police numbers and old Theresa May ignoring advice. It's just nice to know, even though she goes against all of the advice that she's been given, she's still been put in charge of the top job of the country, which is quite worrying, really.
Yeah,
but
a little bit, yeah.
I think the problem is, if we start to arm the police, it will actually cost us more. Because my thought is, if you allow a single officer to patrol the street on his own and he's armed, then that makes him a target for someone who might want to take that arm from him, so that they could either sell it for drugs money or whatever. So they'd have to walk around in pairs.
But I thought they had to walk around in pairs anyway, didn't they? Don't they?
No, they don't. No, at the moment they go around on their own.
Well, if I was a policeman, I wouldn't want to go round on my own.
Well,
who would I chat to?
you don't have a choice because the numbers have been cut. But at least you have the option to call for backup.
Oh, backup, please! No, I would want somebody right there by my side.
No, well, you've got it. It's called a phone or whatever. You could dial 101.
Yeah, that'll work.
You've been put on hold because it's very busy.
Yeah. Please call back at a time of your convenience, assuming you're still alive. No, police people should be walking around in pairs. How can a police person do a job and on their own? They're in great danger. See, there's the thing. You put on a uniform in this country. It doesn't even matter what kind of uniform. If you put on a fireman's uniform, for crying out loud, it makes you a target to some people.
Yeah, it does, but you know the target is, you're a very valuable target. You have a very valuable asset. It can get you an awful lot of drugs, or it can help you, to commit an awful lot of crime. And if every officer has a gun, then that means there are so many more guns in circulation, which means the opportunity for one to go missing or to be sold on the black market, or to have one taken from you, increases sort of exponentially.
Yeah, no,
So
I understand that, but explain this. If the police are armed in Switzerland and in Norway and in Sweden and in France and Germany and Belgium and every other country in Europe, why do we have the worst murder rate per head of population?
It's probably because we think more like our North American cousins, because we are crazy. I mean, of all the... When you compare us to our European neighbours, we are a bit crazy. And I think if we start arming our police, then our criminals will act in a similar manner to the Americans. We will have gun battles on the streets. And I don't think that's a route worth taking.
Well, I think we're there already. I mean, if 733, whatever the figure was that I gave out some moments ago, if that's the amount of murders that we've got going on in this country, okay, we're not Brazil yet, but we're the worst in Europe outside of the Ukraine and Russia. I mean, we're already doing something really, really wrong. So whatever we're doing now ain't working.
No, what we're doing wrong is we're removing police officers from the streets and police officers to follow up on intelligence and to do all the things that they used to do in order to intercept crime before it takes place. I mean, if you keep removing manpower...
Intercept crime before it takes place? What is this, Minority Report now?
Well, no. I mean, what would happen was your local police officer would have a pretty good idea of who the criminals were, and they would keep an eye on them. In various ways.
Well, yeah, I suppose so, but the figures don't back that up, Steve. I mean, I understand the concept, but if only 1 in 10 burglaries around the country actually have a positive outcome, as in they're solved, then they aren't preventing crime, and they may know who's doing it, but they're not actually fingering the perp, if you'll forgive that phrase. I mean, in some counties, the clear-up rate for burglaries is almost zero.
Well, that's because they don't really have the resources. I mean, quite often the officers will know who done it, and even when you go round their house and find like all the booty in the garden and everything, there still isn't sufficient evidence to convict someone. So it's not giving an officer a gun isn't going to solve the problem. The problem is law and overall enforcement. So the gun is almost an irrelevance. Unless you actually shoot them, then that will solve the problem. But then what you'll have to do is you'll have to spend a fortune putting that officer on trial and wait and see how it pans out.
Yeah, and wiping the blood off their booty.
Well, I mean, you yourself, you had your sat-nav stolen. You had all the information.
Yeah, exactly. If only had somebody had issued me with a gun, I'd have dealt out some street-side justice.
Yeah, I mean, but police carrying weapons won't deter criminals because there's crime in all those countries.
Well, yeah, I suppose so, but the guns aren't for burglaries. I would suggest that the guns would be more for the terrorist threat that we are constantly told is increasing on a daily basis. But anyway, it's Steve, good to talk to you. I've got to go. Thanks a lot, mate.
This guy is sick. There's something wrong with this guy.
I think Zora Suleiman is sick. She only just makes it to the end of the 3-minute bulletin. Take some honey. I suggest the police don't want guns because every time they shoot someone, there is mass hysterics. The poor person gets suspended for 2 years and zillions of pounds are spent by the IPCC before the poor person possibly is cleared. Absolutely farcical. Well, we do want some sort of checks and balances. They can't just go out shooting whoever they choose. But other countries seem to be able to function with armed police. How come we can't? And people are still trying to explain this electricity thing to me. This one says, imagine a river. The flow of the river is the current, and the voltage is how deep the water is. Yeah, that clears that up, doesn't it?
No.
Stop explaining it to me. You're making it worse. So how are we going to solve this? Cutting the number of police men and women on the streets doesn't seem to be it, which is Theresa May's cunning scheme 18% reduction in the police budget. And you could draw a direct line between that, the 18% that she has shaved off the police's budget, to the open check that she's written for our nuclear deterrent. What the hell for? Hundreds of billions of pounds. An open check she's written for weapons of mass destruction that we won't use, not now, not ever, never. And they talk about the terror threat, but this is terrible. This is the background hum of criminality in this country that is causing terror. Crime in England and Wales soared by 13%. Forces registered 5.2 million crimes in the year to the end of June. And I think in all criminality, we are the worst in Europe per head of population. I don't think there's anyone that's worse than we are. There's something seriously wrong with us. Maybe that bloke before the news was right. We're crazy. The noise that's going on inside our head sounds a little bit like this. That second one was by accident. There was an 11% rise in the number of thefts, 664 homicides, 36,998 knife or sharp instrument attacks, which was the highest number ever. Public order offences up 43%. Knife crimes up 26%, robbery up 25%, violence against the person up 19%, sexual offences up 19%, vehicle theft up 17%, theft from the person up 11%, burglary up 6%, homicide down by 2%. Well, that is a cause for some celebration.
Can I get a hallelujah?
Not yet, man. 2%. That's sort of par for the course. And like I said before, earlier this year we found that police across the UK solve only 1 in 10 burglaries. And in some counties, it's almost zero. They've just given up. Despite the fact that the police must know who does it. Because that police fellow that I was talking to in the last hour, he was quite right. There's 5 million odd crimes, but they aren't committed by 5 million odd people. I don't know the exact number, so I'll make it up. They're committed by 6 people. 6 very busy people. Can you believe that?
No.
People are burglarizing people at an alarming rate. They don't burglarize one person. They go on a spree. Hundreds, if not thousands of people get burglarized by the same person. And the police must know where they are. They must be known to the police. But apparently they haven't got the money, or they haven't got the wherewithal, or the weaponry to do anything about it. Or some soft judge who hasn't been the victim of a burglary, a burglar, what? A what?
What?
A burglar himself gives them a light tap on the wrist and tells them, like I said last time, and the time before that, and the time before that, and the time before that, please don't do it again. You know, pretty please with sugar on top. Here's a list of all the countries on Earth, apart from Britain and Ireland, which, just count as the same, that have police that do not carry guns. This is a list of all of the countries on Earth that don't regularly arm their police. Norway, Iceland, New Zealand, that's it. That's it. It's just us and them. Norway, Iceland, and New Zealand. And the only crime they have in Iceland is fishermen becoming crooked bankers. Britain's got 25 times the murder rate as Norway. 25 times. And that's per head of population. That's not, that's disregarding the difference in the number of people who live there. 72% more violent crime and twice as much crime in total per head of population we have compared with Norway. And that's one of the 3 countries, apart from some islands in the Pacific that don't count, that do not regularly arm their police. Virtually no crime in Iceland, virtually no crime in Norway, and the only crime that ever happens in New Zealand is sheep-related. You don't need a gun for that. So I don't get it. Like, I really don't get it. We seem to be pretending that we're still in the 1950s, and all a policeman needs is a whistle and a funny hat. They must be an impediment to catching anybody, you'd think. That silly hat they're forced to wear. What is that hat for? There was... this is about a week or so old, but there was a story that sort of came and went quite quickly. There was a soldier outside a Horse Guards parade or something like that. One of the places where they post a soldier for the benefit of tourists taking photographs. And he was snapped with earphones in. Did you see that? And Lord Major Bufton Tufton went, well, it's an impediment to catching terrorists listening to music. And I thought, and looking at the picture of the guy, I thought, well, you know what? Having to wear thigh-high leather boots might be an impediment to catching terrorists too. Having to wear a helmet that covers half his face and is so shiny it wouldn't look out of place in Tiffany's windows might be an impediment to catching terrorists. Making him wear a uniform that looks like it weighs 3.5 tons might be an impediment to catching terrorists. The man looked like he'd fallen off a Christmas tree. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he either is just a photographic opportunity for tourists or he's an actual real-life serving soldier. Pick one. Greenwich. Hello, Darren.
Hello?
Yes, Darren.
Yeah, hi there, Mick. I just wanted to say about the time that I got tasered.
Are we on speakerphone?
Sorry?
Are we on speakerphone?
I have you on loudspeaker, Mick. Is that all right? I want to turn
No,
it
it's
off.
not all right. Turn it off.
Okay, sorry, Mick. Wait there, 1 second. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
Take all the time you need, Darren. It's a live show.
Sorry, Mick.
Is there anybody out there? Oh, I'm sorry, time's up. He doesn't know how to work his phone. I'll give him one more chance. Yes, Darren.
Yeah, sorry, Mick. I've got a bit... There we go. There.
Oh, that's much better. Yeah.
I've got tasered
It sounds like you're calling from the moon.
about 3
Or a
years
submarine.
ago now.
Huh?
And what happened was... It's a bit of an embarrassing story, but it was a case of mistake.
I don't know what you've done to your phone, but whatever you've done is worse.
Sorry?
It's worse.
Can you hear me now, Mick?
Yes. Yeah, it's like you just walked into the room. Yeah, go ahead, Darren.
Sorry, yeah, it's a bit of a funny area, this. What it is, yeah, it's an embarrassing story. About 3 years ago, I got tasered, and it turned out to be a mistaken identity thing. And what happened was, I was in, I don't know if you know the Peckham area. Do you know Peckham?
No.
South East London, Peckham, Deptford?
Well, I know where it is, but I don't... there's no reason why I would ever have been there, no.
Oh, okay. Well, you know where Only Fools and Horses is, Peckham, that's that area.
Yeah.
So what happened was, I was walking down near the market, and someone shouted out, stop, and it was the police, and they tasered me. And then what happened was, I got knocked out, and then I ended up in the back of the van, and they said I was, I was supposed to... Sorry, I'm a first-time caller. They accused me of being a nonce, Mick, which I'm not. So what happened was they put me in the hospital, and that was it. They apologised for their actions, but I just want to give you a statistic. 50% of people that get tasered end up with a verruca. And I had one on my little foot, and then what happened was it was there for ages, let me tell you.
Right, well, don't go swimming. Whatever you do. The stuff you learn on this show, it's like an education, isn't it?
No.
Yeah. Still, it was worth waiting for. A verruca, you say? Wow. If I had sat here from now until the end of time, I didn't think that I would never have guessed that that's what you were going to say. Can you just check whether it's a full moon this evening? It's probably too blowy to tell. Too many clouds. This text says, every time the police use their guns, the public are in outcry, despite not knowing the reasons why. Although I do fully support the police using a taser on that last caller. They should do it frequently.
You're wondering what it's all about, and I can't tell you because I don't know myself.
It's about foot health, apparently. Verrucas. There's a name, a word that I haven't heard in, since I was a kid. We used to have to walk through a bath a little foot bath, before you went into the pool. Of course, I wouldn't do that these days. Do they even have that these days? Are verrucas still a thing? Hello? Is this thing on? Are verrucas still a thing? I have no idea. But we used to have to walk through a foot bath in order to, when we went to the pool as a kid. I would never go to a pool now. You can't go into any body of water that is not surrounded by tiles because, in the ocean, fish have carnal, fishy relations with each other in that.
Disgusting.
So that's out. And pools, ugh. You get red eyes in a pool, not because of the chlorine, but because of other people's urine. Apparently, that's what I read. I don't want to bathe in my own urine, let alone anybody else's. But anyway, as a kid, you used to have to walk through a foot bath in order to get to the pool, and we always used to avoid it. We were about to get wet from head to toe, but we wouldn't get wet from the ankles down before we arrived in the pool. We used to walk along the edge outside it. How stupid is that? Kids. Steve says, I don't understand why anyone would feel nervous around or even intimidated by an armed officer. I've spent years working in London till the early hours of the morning, and in my experience, an armed officer is just as approachable and helpful as any other police officer. Well, I find them intimidating. I find them a bit alarming, actually. They're less like the police and more like the army. The ones with the machine guns. I mean, you feel a little bit more safe in an airport, although, when the bullets start spraying around, then I'm not sure that's as safe as what we would feel. But I think if they have a gun that's holstered, then it's not so in your face, like literally. So they would be more approachable, just as they are in any other country. Not that I have had much need of approaching an officer in any of the countries I've been to, but I haven't been, I haven't felt like I want to scream and run in the opposite direction in any of the other countries that I've been to, all of which, without exception, have I been to Norway? Yeah, I think I went there once, but I didn't notice any police people there, but every other country I've ever been to has had armed police, and it felt... we didn't think twice about it. Kingston, hello, Omar.
How you doing? You all right?
Good, thanks.
So, what do you think about trying to develop non-lethal weapons? Revolvers that, or automatic weapons that fire tranquilizer darts instead of bullets. Could that be an option? Do you think?
Well, that's what tasers are supposed to be. They're supposed to be non-lethal, although people do die from them, and rubber bullets also, same thing. People die from them as well.
Rubber bullets don't incapacitate people, and tasers have a short range. If it's a revolver that fired darts instead of real bullets, it could incapacitate someone from a...
It'd have to be a pretty fast, quick acting incapacitator.
Tranquilizer?
Yeah, but it'd have to be pretty quick, though, wouldn't it?
But how tranquilizer? How they? Not animals that quite quickly, don't they, or people?
Well, I don't know. Whenever I've seen David Attenborough shoot something on television, or rather narrate somebody else shooting something on TV, the dart goes in, and the lion expresses its displeasure, and then it walks away.
So you don't think it'll work? Then you can have like a quick acting tranquilizer chemical, or in a dart. You don't think it'll work?
Well, it doesn't sound... well, I'm no chemist. I'm no expert on this or any other subject, for that matter, Omar. But I think they've got a lot of non-lethal weapons already. They've got the CS gas, and they've got the metal batons, and they've got their tasers, and they've got their whistles. All sorts of things are available to them.
All short-range things. I mean, have a longer range. 5-6 metres.
Well, leave it with me, and I'll look into it. How does that sound?
You don't seem convinced.
Well, like I said, I'll work overtime on it. I'll work all the way through tomorrow and see what I come up with. All right.
I develop by this time next week.
Yeah, okay. I'll have a full report on your desk first thing Monday morning. Thanks a lot, Omar. 0345 6060 973. It sounded like he'd been on. Sounded like he'd been sampling tranquilizers. Perka, I'm going to send him some caffeinated coffee in the post. Let's have a call in Chertsey. Oh, Tony.
Hi there, Nick.
Tony.
Nick. Okay. Here's one for you. Where do you think that crime comes from?
Your shoes.
Oh. I don't wear shoes, though. I wear sandals.
Oh, my... Sandals?
Without socks.
Oh, well, that's okay, then.
Good. Yeah, to my mind, shoes provide just the right sort of hot, sticky, fetid environment for problems.
I think that you'll find that 100% of criminals wear shoes. I think we're onto something here.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's significant. If we know that something overriding is prevalent in any particular situation we're looking for, like the reason for crime, and shoes are responsible, then we ought to do something about it.
Well, I think the police should draw their weapons every time they see anybody wearing shoes, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah. You don't think that's going a little over the top then?
Maybe, just a bit, yeah. Sometimes I get carried away. So tell me, where does crime come from?
Well, I'm not too sure. But I think it may be inequalities. You know, inequalities in society may lead to displeasure and a feeling that, well, they're getting away with it, why can't I? And the only way I could get away with it is by committing crime, which is essentially, I think, not the right way to go.
Well, white-collar crime, yes, you could say absolutely. I mean, the banking racket seems to be, their modus operandi seems to be fraud. They sit, the people in the banks seem to be getting away with it by and large.
Right.
On a regular basis, on a daily basis. Their whole business model is fraud. So they're getting away with it. So you think that further down the scale, where people don't have limousines parked outside their plush offices, where they can't see a way out of the dire circumstances they're in, you think, well, hell, they're getting away with it. But then, and that seems to be criminal activity. Why shouldn't I avail myself of whatever opportunities come my way?
That's right. What evidence would you say that we are seeing that they are getting away with it?
Well, how many bankers did we lock up for the biggest financial crash in history?
None.
I think that's about right, yeah. I think as far as we went was to strip certain individuals of their titles, which tells you everything you need to know about the honours system in this country. Hell, Harvey Weinstein had an honour.
Did he? I didn't know that.
I think he still does.
Right, yeah, okay. It does seem to my mind, Nick, I don't know whether you agree, and I will ask you whether you agree, that the higher the sort of intelligence, the higher the libido.
The higher the intelligence, the higher the libido. I think we've gone off on a tangent here. I don't know. I don't know. I think the higher the...
Well, do you think Harvey Weinstein had a high intelligence? Or has?
Well, he's probably very... he's probably very bright. He appears to be an absolute pig of a man, but he's managed to fashion himself a fortune. So
yeah. So is that wrong or right?
Is what wrong or right?
The way he has fashioned his
fortune.
Chances. Yeah.
As a producer of films, he appears to be very good at what he does, but as a human being, he seems to be just about as low as you can go.
Yeah, right. what films has he produced? I don't know. Of,
well, I think he produced all the Quentin Tarantino ones, and a lot of films that have a bit of an edge about them that aren't, totally mainstream, that aren't, Transformers and Superman and all that Marvel stuff. That was him. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that man. I'd need a shower before the end of the show. I'd talk about that man.
All right. Okay. So, what do you want to talk about then, Nick?
Well, no, I think we were onto something, talking about inequality, because the OECD, the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, they just released a report that said a large number of things, much of which would get people furious. They said one of the things that they said was that a second referendum that reverses Brexit would have a positive and significant impact on the UK economy. Which is going to make us, like a large number of people in this country, just boil with fury. But another thing they said was that, part of the problem that we have in this country is as you said, the inequalities and the disparity between regions. And, go on.
Well, not only between regions,
but
just
within regions. Yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah. Within the whole of society. And the haves at the top,
exactly.
And the have-nots
at the bottom. And the haves continue to get more, and the have-nots continue to get poorer. And so it's hardly really, when you take that on board, it is hardly surprising that there is a rise in crime. Because,
absolutely.
If everybody's... You go to Monaco and people aren't... millionaires aren't burgling other millionaires because they're comfortable. But if you haven't got anything, then it, drug dealing or burglaring or mugging or whatever, it looks like... to some people, your only option. Here, Tony, I'm going to have to go, but thanks for that.
So they opened their big mouths, and out came talk. Talk, talk.
Hawaiians love Spam. If I had to sit here from now until the end of time, I would not have come up with that thought. I would have thought they'd be busy eating pineapples or mangoes or, something along those lines. Spam? This is from the Washington Post. Spam heists in Hawaii prompt retailers to put the wildly popular mystery meat in locked cases. They're locking up their spam in Hawaii. This is a very long article. I'll see how far I get before I get bored. Last month in Pearl County community in Oahu, Safeway customer Arlene watched as a man suddenly grabbed 8 cases of spam and headed for the door. She thought, okay, this isn't real. No, he's not going to take it. No. But it was for real. The man took off with 8 cases of spam and disappeared. Elsewhere on the island, at about the same time, 3 women loaded up shopping carts at Long's drugstore with 18 cases of spam. They made a rush for the exit. Fortunately, an alert customer called Kurt saw the attempted heist in progress, stationed himself at the door on spam patrol, and stopped them in their tracks. They shoved their carts towards him and took off. A shop in a downtown mall wasn't so lucky. The Honolulu Police Department is now offering a $1,000 reward for a man who entered a store on October the 3rd, grabbed a case of spam, and punched a security guard who attempted to stop him. Spam snatchers are not hungry people desperate for spam, says the president of the Retail Merchants of Hawaii. They are most likely part of a spam black market that's taking off in a state where the demand for spam knows no bounds. You've got to be kidding me. Well, what do they eat in Hawaii that would make them want to ditch that and get hold of tins of spam? Thefts have proliferated to the point that some businesses are putting spam in plastic cases under lock and key, along with more expensive shoplifting targets such as Gillette razors and other electronics. To buy a can of spam, you have to ask a salesperson to unlock the case and retrieve it. This is stunning to me on a variety of levels. First of all, I didn't realize they still made spam. Second, I thought that spam was a British thing, probably because of Monty Python. Spam. But I don't like spam. And I don't like spam. I don't even know what it is. Is it cow? Is it pork? What is it? And they're selling spam to you see, now, this is not what our excellent newsreader Zora Suleiman said. She said that they were nicking spam in order to sell it to score drugs.
Want to score some pot?
But maybe, I think that the story in the Washington Post is suggesting that they're stealing spam just because they really, really like spam. The stuff you hear on this show. Let's have a call in Wanstead. Hello, Sophie.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm feeling a bit bilious after all that spam talk.
That's probably one of the oddest, funniest stories
I can't believe
I've
it.
heard. My mind is boggled.
My mind's boggling too.
Why would you want to eat congealed, disgusting?
Well, let's not get carried away. I'm sure that obviously some people find it nutritious and delicious.
Well, I'm sure Spam is a very reliable company, but it's just the thought of the meat and the providence of the meat.
I'm sure it comes from animals.
Can I refer you to CJD, BSE, swine flu, chicken flu?
Sounds like dinner to me.
That's it. I'm also, this isn't what I rang up about.
Hey, you know what? But I know that's not what you rang up about. But you know what? We're going to have to stop eating animals because because there's a lack of insects. No,
You mean the food chain?
that's actually true. The entire food chain is about to collapse. You know, we talk about things like terrorism and all of the rest of it, which are present and increasing threats. But the actual present and increasing threat is we ain't got no food shortly. We will look at tins of spam with drooling appreciation pretty soon because there won't be any other food for us to eat.
I never will, because I'm a vegetarian. This is where, yet again, America will muscle in with its quote-unquote good idea. They're growing food in laboratories now, and they've already, genetically modified. Food is a mainstay of their food production, so I fear that we probably will be eating food that will look quite similar to, what they're eating at the moment. And, food produced in laboratories.
Well, we better get used to that because that sounds like the future to me. Because the food that we're eating now is, according to this study about insects, which are the basis of our food chain. Even though we don't actually eat insects themselves, they're the ones that provide us with all that fresh, delicious food and the food that we feed our animals that we then feed on. The whole food chain is about to collapse, and we won't have anything to eat anymore. We'll have to eat each other, Sophie.
The animal kingdom reflecting what's happening in the wider world, in the human world, where the whole system's collapsing. And can I say, one of the contributors of that, Donald Trump, one of Obama's aides called him a deranged animal.
Yeah.
And that's an insult, deranged animal.
Do you think?
And he's managed to unify Clinton and Bush.
And Bush, yeah. Isn't it bizarre? It used to be that George Bush used to be the baseline of. It almost seems cruel to say it now, but it used to be the baseline of presidential stupidity. But now he looks like a statesman.
Absolutely.
Exactly. This is the absurdity of it all, and it's just scary where we're going. But apparently now we're all safe because the world was supposed to end by the 13th of October.
Oh, God. Well, again, the 13th of October. Oh, we've gone past that, haven't we? Well, you know what? There's an asteroid that just missed us. It came between us and the moon, and NASA are saying that it may not miss us when it comes around the next time. It's like 100 foot wide or 100 meters wide or 100 miles wide. I don't know. But anyway, when it hits us, that's it. Game's over.
Well, I was thinking, I really hope the world doesn't end on the 13th of October because I don't want to be diddled out of my half-term holidays because they've just started. So
are you saying the 13th or the 30th?
The 13th.
1-3.
Yes.
Well, we've gone past the 13th already.
No, but before the 13th, I was hoping that it would,
Oh.
because half term has just started.
Oh, you're a teacher.
And well, I did a teacher training course. I'm doing learning support at the moment. So
Right.
and
So is it half term? Is it half term now?
yes.
That would explain that would explain all the free parking spaces in London. It's amazing. I was amazed at how London seems to empty out during school holidays. There really is a noticeable lack of people around.
So one of the few good things that has come out of America is their school bus system, which I think is a fantastic idea, and I think it would ease the congestion, the pollution. Children would walk a little bit, maybe to the bus stop. I think that's a fantastic way to transport children, and I wish we had it here.
So that makes absolute sense to me. Far fewer parents in cars the size of tanks, sitting with the engine running, waiting for the little darlings to come out of school. Yeah, absolutely. Stick them on a bus.
Exactly. Now, you were talking about criminals and arming the police.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm absolutely against it, and if I even only needed one reason, it would be Jean-Charles de Menezes and what happened there, the more than unfortunate incident, and then what happened afterwards in terms of the way it was reported and what he was allegedly have said to have done. But the reason why criminals do what they do is not the police. That's the end game in terms of maybe why criminals do what they do, number one, and I'm not a bleeding heart, but also the penal system is a complete and utter mess. And I don't think it's harsh enough, but I also don't think that there's enough opportunity to rehabilitate criminals who perhaps don't commit, heinous crimes like murder.
Yeah, well, what they call the recidivism rate, the rate at which criminals come out of jail and then commit crime and then go back in, is enormous. I can't remember what the exact number is, but let's say it's at 90%. I'm probably right. It's there or thereabouts. It's huge.
That policeman said it's about 20, ex-policeman or policeman said 20% of criminals who
commit 80% of the crimes. Yeah, so the police must know who they are. It's just that the criminal justice system is failing us. Never mind about failing the police; it's failing us. I mean, if a criminal can, I think at some point, or this, I suppose you'll think that this makes me a fascist. But at some point, society has to think, well, you know what? You're just a drain on us all, so we're going to throw you overboard. I'm not talking about execution, but there should be some kind of deterrent or prevention to stop people from being able to burglarize people hundreds, if not thousands of times. I mean, how many times, how many passes are we going to give people?
Exactly, and I don't actually agree. Think you're a fascist, because I think for certain crimes, I actually do think we should bring the death penalty back. Because in no way, shape, or form.
Well, now hang on a minute. You started out by saying that because of the terrible mistake that they made with the Jean-Charles de Menezes, then police shouldn't be armed. But on the other hand, you think that we should bring back the death penalty, despite the very many people that were put to death who were subsequently found to have been not guilty, for which the state apologised profusely, just a little bit too late.
But we have a different system now. We have, advances in technology and DNA testing.
Yeah, but that don't work. All of that DNA testing and fingerprinting and all that stuff that you see on the TV, CSI and all of that stuff, and we've got hairs and fibres and, skin flakes and all of that stuff. That actually is very inaccurate. And just recently we've found how inaccurate it is. Those so-called experts often don't know what they're talking about, and they're just making it up. They're under obligation to come up with some sort of proof that would fit the police's case, and in a lot of cases, that so-called proof has been false.
But it's more refined than it was before. Yes, and the appeal system, even if there was no conclusive DNA evidence, the appeal system would slow things down. I think, in cases of, for example, Ian Brady and Myra Hindley.
Well, yeah, but,
no way, shape, or
but at
form,
what
nothing
point you bring it back, and then people will be demanding the death penalty for not believing in Brexit.
No, that is.
And I bet there's a lot of people looking at the radio going, "Yep, quite right. Get on with it." Sophie, I'm going to have to go because I'm past the break, but thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. You know, when I come back, there is a country that does use the death penalty, and we are very, very cosy with them indeed. To, I think, our shame. And I'll get to that.
Hello, boys.
Yeah, so there's this country that does use execution. They love a bit of it. And we love them too. To our shame, I think. Now, there's a fellow called Alistair Burt. The Right Honourable Alistair James Henry Burt. He was appointed by David Cameron as a British Foreign Office Minister. You remember David Cameron, don't you? Don't you? Don't you? I don't think touch screens are going to work. I really don't think they're going to catch on. Somebody's going to have to come up with something else. They just don't work. They're not reliable. You remember David Cameron, don't you? No! Yeah, that's the fella. We're still not missing you, Dave, in case you were wondering. Well, this week, British Foreign Office Minister Alistair Burt used a trip to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia to reaffirm the UK's strong support for Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, we love you. The visit comes amid an unprecedented jump in executions in the kingdom. Saudi authorities have executed over 100 people this year, setting the regime on course to meet the record totals of executions we've seen in the last 3 years. They're getting it done. These numbers put Saudi Arabia comfortably within the ranks of the world's top 5 executing countries. As is so often the case, the most vulnerable people in society end up waiting, or awaiting, rather, the executioner's blade. This is from the International Business Times, a writer called Maya Foa. Since 2012, at the height of the Arab Spring protests calling for democracy, scores of people, including juveniles, have been arrested, tortured, and sentenced to death for the crime of attending protests in Saudi Arabia, our close personal friends. Some have been executed. For example, Ali Al-Reeb, who was a juvenile in school when he was arrested. He was tortured into making a false confession, subjected to a sham trial before Saudi Arabia's notorious specialised criminal court. The kingdom says the court was set up to hear terrorism cases, but has routinely been used to convict human rights defenders and protesters and perceived political opponents. And these are the people that we're cozying up to. How embarrassing. Embarrassing is too benign a word for it. It's shameful. The British Foreign Office Minister Alistair Burt's visit comes as the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia threatens another wave of executions of vulnerable protesters, including children. And facing death alongside the boy Ali Al-Reeb are 5 other juveniles, as well as a disabled young man. Some of their so-called crimes include using WhatsApp and Facebook to organise protests. On this week's trip to Riyadh, the British Foreign Office Minister Alistair Burt stuck to the now familiar mantra that the UK government is helping the kingdom to reform. Right. But the kingdom's reform programme is nothing more than a fig leaf offered to the international community. It fails to address Saudi Arabia's infamously poor human rights record and the political repression that has seen juveniles facing execution. Children. Knowing this, it is deeply questionable that the UK government lends such strong support to the kingdom's criminal justice system, a system that plays a central role in abuses and shows no sign of reform. The British government's provided millions of pounds worth of training to Saudi police in investigating techniques and in cybersecurity. And British officials have privately acknowledged that this very training risks contributing to gross abuses like torture of children. 3 years into a bloody execution spree and with juvenile protesters once again at risk of execution. British Foreign Office Minister Alistair Burt's talk of supporting Saudi Arabia's reform rings increasingly hollow, says Maya Foa in the International Business Times. Britain, as Burt pointed out this week, counts Saudi Arabia among its closest allies and lends its police generous UK support. It's not embarrassing, it's shameful. You get judged by the company you keep. The UK government must urgently use this close relationship to call for real and meaningful reform. That means calling on the kingdom to ensure fair trials, an end to torture and the freedom of protest without fear of execution. Otherwise, Britain risks complicity in appalling abuses. Risks is putting it mildly. Are complicit. Hello, Susan.
Hello, Nick. Right, okay. About the arming the police.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I think that before we, go to other options, that assumes that we've sort of exhausted the situation, or we've given up on.
But don't you think we have, though?
As it is.
Don't you think we have?
The two callers earlier on who are actually on the front line, they must have good insight into what's going on. They're saying that the real problem is lack of resources. I mean, if they start having to train men up with guns, there are probably even less resources going into manpower. There being fewer men out there, less resources going into the intelligence. And as your last caller said, resources are being cut for rehabilitation as well. I mean, if that's what needs to be put right first of all.
Right. Well, I think that if we stop spending money,
not going to
not
do
listening
that.
to me.
They're not
I
going
think
to harm anybody because they haven't got resources.
Okay. Right. I think that if we stop spending money on nuclear weapons, then we'd free up an enormous amount of cash to spend on actual policing that would benefit us all, rather than buying something that we will never use just so that we can strut about on the world stage and give it the big I am, like we're still this huge ocean-going, desperately important country, but which we aren't. We've got to get used to our new position in the world. It's not new. We've been this way for 100 years or more. We're just not that important anymore. I mean, I know it hurts a little bit. Why, in God's name, do we need nuclear weapons? Who is threatening us? What would be the point of threatening us with nuclear weapons? We're an offshore banking racket. That's what we do for a living. Nobody wants to bomb us. They want to launder their ill-gotten gains with us. Why would they want to bomb the bank that their money is in? That makes no sense. But, it allows us to continue acting the tough guy. And that's worth hundreds of billions of pounds? I don't think so. But, maybe that's just me.
Trying to tell me that this is your act?
Yeah, this is what I got, yeah. Penny says, yes, Nick, Verucas are still a thing. Thanks for reminding me to buy some Bazooka That Veruca for my daughter. Really, chewing gum works. Oh, it's not chewing gum, is it? It's bubble gum. Big difference, huge. I used to love Bazooka. Do they still make Bazooka Joe bubble gum? Of course, don't swallow it. You can't swallow it because it'll wrap itself around your heart.
Warning, warning.
That's what they used to tell us. I'm not sure that's physically possible. Chris says, Verucas and the big spam crime wave, I think I'm having the hearing version of hallucinations. Pete says, spam is very popular here in South Korea, and you can expect to pay about £2 or £3 per can. You can also exorbitantly get exorbitantly overpriced gift sets of spam during the yearly festivals. They have spam festivals. I was just reading up more about this. Apparently the reason that they like spam in Hawaii is because of the during the Second World War, a lot of troops used to eat it, and the Hawaiians got a taste for it. It says here, Spam sells for roughly $2.50 per 12-ounce can. A thief who paid nothing for an 8-pack or a case of 12 can turn a decent profit underselling the retailers from whom they stole. It's an organised retail crime wave, says one retailer. It's not like I'm going to steal some Spam to feed my family. I'm going in with a list of things I want to steal. The thieves work in teams, one to distract onlookers, the others to run out with the Spam. There's got to be some more expensive stuff to steal in a shop. I mean, Gillette razors would be easier to secrete. Try sticking a can of Spam down your trousers. It says, to some mainland Americans, this may seem funny. Well, it seems pretty funny to me. Mainlanders often think of Spam either as junk email. Yeah, why is a junk email called Spam? What is that? That never occurred to me before. Why is that called Spam? I bet somebody knows. Others see it as a cheap meat that comes in a can and has no taste, which is true if you just eat plain Spam from a can. After all, how flavourful is a mixture of pork with ham, salt, water, potato starch, sugar and sodium nitrate? But in Hawaii, nobody eats it plain. They eat Spam fried rice or Spam and egg. This is a Monty Python sketch. They eat Spam, 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 Spam and eggs. That doesn't have much Spam in it. They also make sushi with it. Oh, no. They eat it in vast quantities and have done since World War II, when conventional meat was scarce and the thousands of GIs based in Hawaii ate the product as lunch meat. So now you know. Hawaiian residents now consume more per capita than anywhere, apparently. 5 million pounds of it a year. 6 cans for each man, woman and child. I haven't eaten Spam since it was forced on me as a child. But then I haven't eaten fish fingers since I was a child either, and I'd eat them again in a heartbeat, like instantaneously. That sounds great. Thefts of Spam in bulk by the case appear to be a relatively recent phenomenon, attributable to a state law enacted last year that changed the definition of a felony from a theft worth at least $350 to one worth at least $750. So that $750 cutoff, you can nick quite a lot of Spam and apparently just get away with it. I can't believe that the main topic of this show is now luncheon meat. West Hampstead. Hello, Mark.
I'm allowed to still comment on the police, and the police and things.
Yes, sir.
So far away, and you've made another couple of subjects which have got me going since, by the way. But anyways, back to the police. The police should definitely be armed. I'm a filmmaker, and I've caught 63 criminals by going out with my camera, etc. And I often break the rules.
Wait a minute. What? You're a filmmaker, and you catch criminals?
Yeah, that's right. I go out with my camera. If you need a computer, if you Google Mark Guard, G-U-A-R-D,
well, let's not get...
Woody Allen.
Okay.
No, you can Google...
All right. But what kind of thing do you do?
Well, I caught burglars going to Woody Allen's house. That's in the press. That's in the Telegraph.
You caught burglars going into Woody Allen's house?
If you Google...
in New York?
Thief. No, he was renting a house in London while I was making a film in Knightsbridge. And if you Google Woody Allen's thief goes fishing, you'll see my name. And I caught 2 burglars in 1 week, because we went out purposely with a camera to catch criminals. I've caught murderers, paedophiles, muggers, etc. It's all in the press, it's all on TV. It's what we do. So what I'm saying is, I often get away with breaking rules, what the police are not allowed to do. Like, I can't really talk about everything, but we like a mugger, I put him in headlock and kept him in Euston Station until the police came, etc., risking injury. They're not allowed to do that. Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, you still there? Have you got that Woody Allen one?
No, I'm not going to look it up.
Oh, you're not Googling? No, it's all things. So I think the police should be given all the resources they should need, and arming them is one of them. So we should be throwing money at them like Margaret Thatcher did. My father was a policeman, And all of a sudden, Margaret Thatcher just upped their income and upped their facilities, and they just changed overnight. And that's what we should be doing now, because they've fallen behind. And they often come across where they can't go out. I can go out any night of this week. I probably will be doing it. And one of your producers have even asked is, can we come out with you one night? Because you can catch criminals any night of the week if you know what you're doing. And these police are not doing it because they haven't got the resources. So if you've got the resources, like my camera crew and me, we go out, we know who's committing the crime in certain areas, and all you do is follow them or set up a stakeout. And these scooter boys, I mean, it's ridiculous what they're getting away with because they know the police won't follow them if they do certain things. And we have to toughen up. We have to start changing and giving the police more powers and arming them. I just call it the tail end of it. But we should be helping them as much as we can. I'm doing my bit. I caught a paedophile the other night in the West End, and that's my second. And the first one I caught, I won't mention names, but he's been convicted. All my 63 catches have all been found guilty in court and mostly gone to prison.
When you say you're a filmmaker, what films do you make?
Well, I've done stuff for Panorama and Inside Out and various other things, but I've done my independent things. I did drugs and crime and one called Hugs and Drugs. There's one, what we're currently doing, called The Worst Hotel in Britain. That was on Panorama as well. I think there's on 3 news features. We're in the middle of filming it at the moment. But getting back to your offshore, you accused Britain of being an offshore, laundering money for offshore.
Yeah.
If you Google my name and put squatters in it, we did a project a few years ago where we were getting squatters to squat these houses which are on offshore accounts, linked to offshore company registration, leaving them empty. And then we were getting these people into court and naming and shaming them. And we did this, 7 years ago or whatever, and we were very successful at it. We got 29 people exposed in court where they had to pay a 40% tax bill. And, their house was registered to a company in the Virgin Islands, etc., etc.
Well, maybe we shouldn't be arming the police with guns. Maybe we should be arming them with cameras.
Well, they're wearing cameras now, aren't they? I mean, that's changed now. But it is easy for anyone to go out. And, I've done 10 years of research to get where I am. But the police often come across obstacles where they can't hold a mugger in a headlock. They can't bugger a murderer's gang like I did. I mean, I won't mention the names. I could actually, legally I could, but I won't. But because they've been convicted. And the murderers that we caught, I got one of the gang members to actually spill the beans, and we tape recorded it. And we walked into Murder Command in Sutton with the tapes and walked into Sky News. Sky gave me 15 minutes of this, the murder which happened. And the paedophile, we had to follow him for 3 months to catch him. We're not one of these people who pretends a child on a computer and, we trap them and entrap them, which I think it's entrapment. I actually followed the guy and infiltrated his life because I knew what he was doing and waited till he did it. And we got a full page in the Sun and we put him away for 12 years, etc., etc. I don't get any thanks for doing this, by the way. I've had a lot of problems where the police have tried to...
Well, it sounds like you're doing it for a living, though.
Well, I source stuff for TV and the tabloids.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I don't know, if you Google CPS files for sale in prison, it was my investigation where...
You're giving me a lot of homework here, Mark.
Well, just Google my name. I mean, I don't mind saying my surname on the radio.
Well, don't do it. But, yeah.
CPS, if you Google CPS files...
Okay. But, the baseline is that you are agreeing with me that they need to be
we should be
armed.
throwing them all the resources and all the money we can possibly
and
get.
better resourced. Yeah, and there should be more of them. All right, thanks a lot, Mark. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850, email nick@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Just one more message, and I'll go and I'll come back and I'll give you the bad news about food. Elaine says, Nick, I was a student before I realised that spaghetti bolognese was made with mince, not spam, as my mother made it with spam. Oh. She grew up in the war when I think the Yanks shipped it over to stop us starving. Oh, well, like I said.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate the meat.
Dude!
So there's 3 stories that came out today that are connected in some way, and I'll give you the worst one first. Well, I suppose they're all bad in a way. But how about no food? No food from now on. You want to start storing those cans of Spam because there won't be anything else to eat pretty soon. Scientists are warning of an ecological Armageddon after discovering that the number of flying insects has fallen by 3/4 in 27 years. Armageddon doesn't sound good. Get Bruce Willis on the phone, see if he can still squeeze into that vest. That's amazing. The number of flying insects has fallen by 3/4 not in 127 years, in 27 years. These are researchers in Germany that have documented a steep decline at dozens of nature reserves. This is not roadsides or in cities, nature reserves where you'd think that they would be chock full of insects. They've dropped by 3/4. And this is sparking fears that the food chain is going to collapse. You know, nothing serious, just food. Because insects are important pollinators. And they serve as meals for small creatures and birds. And they eat them in Thailand as well, like human beings eat them in Thailand. It's thought the decline may be caused by agricultural pesticides used to stop insects eating crops. Did I tell you?
Yes.
Over and over again I've been saying this. I've been saying this for ages about the decline of insects. In the 1970s, you didn't need to drive anywhere particularly quickly, while cars then weren't able to drive particularly quickly. But if you drove a couple of miles in the countryside, there'd be dead insects covering the whole of the front of your car. Now you could traverse the country from one end to the other, and you wouldn't hit a single one. You could do it at great speed, and not one single insect would splat onto your windscreen. It used to be the front of your car was covered. They used to actually sell products to get dead insects off the front of your car. Not needing it anymore. So I was completely correct in every respect. Over the past 27 years, there's been an average decline of 76% of flying insects. Professor Dave of Sussex University told The Guardian that insects make up about 2/3 of all life on Earth, but there has been some kind of horrific decline. And I expect that it's us what's done it. He said, we appear to be making vast tracts of land inhospitable to most life forms and are currently on course for ecological Armageddon.
Oh, no.
That doesn't sound good, does it? He said, if we lose insects, we lose everything. Everything is going to collapse. Around 80% of all the world's plant life is of the flowering variety, which needs to have pollen physically transferred from a male anther to a female stigma.
Disgusting.
Yeah. And insects do that. We just can't do it ourselves. We haven't got literally, we haven't got the manpower. And without the insects doing all that transferring, then these plants would disappear, which is a problem because we rely on those plants for dinner. And the animals that we eat rely on those plants for dinner. So the entire food chain looks like it's about to collapse. And this is probably the first time you've heard about this. Is anybody doing anything about it?
No.
Apparently not. Our politicians are busy, I don't know, they're just tinkering with the stuff that doesn't actually really matter in the great scheme of things. I mean, this country has been obsessed with a blooming trade deal. Well, guess what? We're going to be starving to death. Never mind about a trade deal with Germany and France and the rest of Europe. What difference is that going to make to our everyday lives when we haven't got anything to eat? Between 50 and 90% of everything that we eat comes directly from flowering plants, which will disappear if the insects go. We could follow the Far East and start eating insects. I thought that's what we were going to have to do eventually when it became too expensive and too wasteful to eat animals. and we couldn't grow enough plants, I thought the plan was that we were going to start eating insects because, you know, they're very, they might not be delicious, but they are nutritious. But there won't be any. But it's worse than that, because insects feed on animal dung, and they prey on pests, and they serve as major decomposers of organic material. And so without insects, the world would be chock full of corpses. And all we need to do to reverse this trend is less of the things that we know have a negative impact, such as the use of pesticides. But as pesticides make a few people a lot of money, that's not going to happen. Short-termism is what will do for the human race. I've said that over and over and over again. And it seems blindingly obvious to me, and apparently nobody else. Nobody else cares. It's like the entire human race has got its fingers crossed and is hoping that nothing dramatic happens while they are in power, in control. The earth will hear the birds' beautiful songs no more because the insects that they rely on aren't going to be there. And there won't be any honey for tea because the bees will be dead. And there won't be any jam either because the bees pollinate the fruit trees. But on the plus side, we'll all be a lot thinner. An ecological Armageddon. That's probably the biggest story in the world today, and who's covering it? No one at all. I got that on the furthest, darkest reaches of the Daily Mail website. And no one is remotely interested. I bet there's not one single government official who's remotely interested in this because they're all bending their mind to getting a free trade deal with Europe. We're leaving them, but we want to stay with them. The whole world's gone completely insane. We're all concentrating on the wrong thing. Then there was this other story. It's all related. Environmental pollution. I bet that's what's killing insects as well. It's a perfect storm. Environmental pollution from filthy air to contaminated water is killing, never mind about insects, is killing more people every year than all the war and the violence in the world combined. It's killing more than smoking and hunger and natural disasters. Environmental pollution is killing more than AIDS and tuberculosis and malaria put together. I mean, I know it ain't funny. 1 out of every 6 premature deaths on Earth, 9 million people per year, could be attributed to disease from toxic exposure to pollution. And don't take my word for it, that's according to a major study released by the Lancet Medical Journal. And the financial cost from pollution-related death and sickness and welfare is equally massive. It's a number that's so big I wouldn't even be able to write it down in figures. $4.6 trillion. $4.6 trillion in annual losses. About 6.2% of the global economy is we might as well set fire to it, except that would cause more pollution. 9 million premature deaths. And it might be worse than that because they think that the number of people killed by pollution is higher. I mean, take what we have here in the UK. About 40,000 early deaths a year in the UK. So say the Royal Colleges of Physicians and Paediatrics and Child Health. This was last year they said this. And diesel emissions are controlled almost not at all. I don't know about you, but there seems to be something wrong with petrol or diesel, whichever it is. I think both have got something wrong with them. Maybe it's the stuff that they sell in supermarkets. The garage that I get my car, they put it on life support every now and again. I used to cough and then just conk out. And they said, stop putting supermarket petrol in it and give it the good stuff. And I did, and it sort of cured the problem. I frequently sit behind in traffic cars that belch out smoke that's so thick you can barely see. It's like that. It's like those smoke bombs that the army throw down to provide cover for an attack. And it seems to me a relatively recent phenomenon, and it's not all old cars, which you might expect would belch out a lot of pollution out the back. These are newish cars, newish, top of the range German cars, for instance, that have smoke coming out of them that's so bad that you think you want to. You put your car in neutral and just wait there for it to dissipate before you move ahead. What's that? 9 million premature deaths. 40,000 people die every year in this country because of pollution. And diesel emissions are among the chief culprits. And indoor pollution has been overlooked as well. Tobacco, wood-burning stoves, cleaning products, air fresheners, all of the rest of that. And our government's response to all of that is to ban petrol and diesel sales from 2040. That's 23 years from now.
Oh, fabulous.
And if you do the sums, 23 years times 40,000 early deaths, that's about 1 million dead people. But, no rush. And apart from that, and the supposed charge that they're going to bring in on the worst polluters of diesel vehicles in London, the government haven't really done much for the short-term gain against long-term benefit. It's all short-termism. They don't want to do anything now to disrupt our comfortable lifestyles, regardless of whether it's actually killing us or not, because too many people would complain. Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, abandoned a plan for a scrappage scheme where drivers would be paid to ditch the most polluting vehicles. Why? Because it would have cost £2 billion, which was considered too much. £2 billion? Hell, Theresa May gave £1 billion to the DUP just to secure her majority. But £2 billion is too much, apparently, to save 40,000 early deaths a year. Huh. If 40,000 people were dying a year from getting high, you can bet the government would spend £2 billion to flood the streets with extra police to stamp it out. But you don't get high on pollution, you only get dead. So that's okay then. So this is the other story of three, which are all sort of linked, and they all are concerning pollution and our imminent demise. When shops started bringing in charges for plastic bags, everybody nodded to Stacey that this was a very good thing and we should get on with it straight away. And when it was put into effect, the result was that we all became criminals. I bet every single person listening to this right now has stolen one of those plastic bags. The story is that 1 in 6 shoppers have admitted stealing 5p plastic bags at self-service checkouts. Now, if 1 in 6 admits to somebody from authority with a clipboard in their hands asking them if they're a criminal, if 1 in 6 say yes, then it's got to be way more than that. I'm going to say 100%. And that figure equates to millions of customers not paying the levy and depriving charities of thousands of pounds. And the part of this story that surprised me was not that we have criminal tendencies, is that the money that you spend on plastic bags goes to charities. I had no idea. You'd think they'd advertise that fact. Maybe they did, and I'd slipped into a coma. The money that they charge for plastic bags goes to charity. I had no idea. That changes everything. Every now and again you'll go to the shop and you won't be carrying a bag with you, and it's kind of irritating, but it's only 5p. What difference does it really make? But you're there and you're unattended. You're booping your own food, and those bags are there. And you think, I'll just take it. Because, Tesco's can afford it. To hell with them. But it doesn't go to Tesco's, it goes to charity, which changes everything. I had no idea. Millions of customers not paying the levy and depriving charities of thousands of pounds. The findings have prompted calls for supermarkets to advertise in stores so customers know that the cash goes to charity on top of the environmental benefits. I had no idea. That is the beauty of advertising. A quarter of the people who have admitted taking these bags have stolen 5p or 10p bags at Marks and Spencer's and Waitrose. Well, that's ridiculous. Those are expensive shops. You don't need to nick 5 pence worth of bag if you're shopping in Marks and Spencer's and Waitrose. A study carried out for the Mail revealed that most of the shops that had bags stolen from them were Asda, Tesco and Sainsbury's. But that just makes sense because those are the places that most people go to buy their food. Customers were also said to be suspicious of how much of this 5p charge actually went to charity. I'm amazed that any of it does. I had no idea. This was a study of 1,050 shoppers carried out by Consumer Intelligence Research Agency. They found that 1 in 6 admit to having previously not paid, which means that if it's 1 in 6 admit to it, 100% have actually engaged in this low-level criminality. But the result is millions and millions of extra plastic bags in the world. There was a picture of the sea off, I think it was Honduras, in one of the papers today. And you couldn't see the sea for all the plastic floating in it. And what do you think that does to the fishes? And what do you think that does to us when we eat those fishes? Fishes or fish? Fish. A third of non-payers did not hand over the 5p because they did not agree with the levy. Well, you could say that shoplifters don't agree with the price of the stuff that they're nicking either. Doesn't make it right, just because you don't agree with it. Half said that they took the bag for free, claiming that they forgot. Right. An associate criminal professor at the University of Leicester, Dr. Matt, said that the work we've done previously around self-service checkouts suggests that they are creating a new breed of shoplifter, as in, it's releasing our inner criminal. The people that wouldn't put a CD down their trousers and try and walk out with it feel emboldened to nick stuff from a self-service counter because they feel, not that it's right, they just feel that they're less likely to be caught, or that the penalty for being caught won't be very strict because they think, well, the shop wants me to come and buy stuff here anyway. So what are they going to do about it? It's at points like this you realise actually who we are. I mean, I know it's not a really big thing, but it is criminal and it is stealing. And if we'll do it when we don't feel that there's going to be any much of a consequence, that's actually who we are. And it does inform these figures that have come out that suggest we are, in Western Europe, the most criminal country. There is no equal. We are the most criminal country in Western Europe. This Dr. Matt said people use a variety of neutralization techniques to tell themselves that what they're doing is not really stealing. Exactly. We're kidding ourselves. But we know that we're trying to kid ourselves. We know that what we're doing is wrong, but we just try to justify it to ourselves. He says they may tell themselves that Tesco is a massive chain and can afford the 5p charge, or they may feel that supermarkets are saving money with self-service checkouts. He says because the bags were free and now they're not, some shoppers may have a gripe about that.
Stop whining.
I think that informs who we are. Maybe I'm wrong. You might correct me if you like. 0345 6060 973. Let's have one in Kingston. Sophie. Is there anybody out there tapping? God, it's the delay on this screen is terrible. You tap it one day and then you come in the next day and the call appears. Kingston, hello, Sophie.
Hello,
There
can you hear
are.
me?
I can now.
All right. I've never nicked any shopping bags. I have a shopping trolley. I'm 57. I'm not a little old lady yet. And it's one of those old basket weave shopping trolleys. I love it. But I look like a little old lady walking along with it. And I've got loads of cotton bags that I bought.
Well, on behalf of the environment, I'd like to say a hearty thank you, Sophie.
Thank you.
Somebody has got to do their best to save the environment. It looks like it's you.
So it's not 100%. You're wrong, Nick.
99.999%. You've never nicked anything from a shop.
I have never... Well, that's not quite true. That was a long, long time ago.
I used to live in Hampstead, and there used to be a lady who carried around or wheeled behind her one of those woven baskets on a stick, and she used to carry her cat in it. It just looked so cute. I mean, the cat was perfectly happy in there. It could have got out and ran away, but she used to drag her cat around Hampstead. It's the sort of thing that happened in Hampstead. Well, I'm not accusing you of having a cat.
But I'm shopping, and I put it in my little basket weave old lady's trolley.
Yeah.
And I did today, and I've got cotton bags, and I have never, ever nicked a plastic bag.
Right. So what else have you nicked?
Oh, God. Chocolate. From Woolworths.
Right. Well, fortunately, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah, that was quite a long time ago.
Right. When you were a kid?
Yes.
From the pick and mix counter?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's okay. That's not stealing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it actually is. Yeah.
It is.
But every child used to do that.
Yeah. Sweets from pick and mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the mints with the chocolate inside.
I like munchies.
What are they?
Chocolate with sort of, I don't know. Anyway, biscuit inside.
Oh, yeah. They probably hid that's probably how they used to dispose of nuclear waste. They just cover it in chocolate and give it to kids.
Yeah, they did.
Never noticed the difference. All right, well, thanks for admitting to your criminality, Sophie, and
That's okay.
a police person will be at your door within the hour.
Oh, good.
Thanks.
We're running late.
Here's calling Deal. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Nick, how are you?
Good, thanks.
This situation with the bags has rattled me a little bit. I've listened to it quite refreshingly for the last half hour, and up until I found out that the big four supermarkets weren't paying their fair share of the charity for the money received of these little 5p bags, when they said, no, they're not paying all the charity money they should be owed, that was the day I decided to be a rebel and said, no, I ain't paying anymore, I've had enough.
You're a rebel and you'll never be any good.
Yeah.
What do you mean by they're not paying their share?
Well, it was reported that he was reported on LBC in a news item, it was reported in the press and the papers that big supermarkets, the big main four, were not paying what they've received in revenue from the plastic bags and not giving all of it to
all of it, right. But they say that they're keeping about 10% for, costs.
Well, I can understand the cost side of it, but when someone done the sums, it didn't seem to add up. So that was the day I thought, well, I ain't doing no more. I mean, admittedly, as I sit in my car, as I talk to you, in the boot, there's quite a few Hessian bags for when I do my regular planned shop. But there are two things that irritate me about the bags more than anything else. One, I've just explained to you. And secondly, is when I travel a lot for work or go on holiday, and I arrive back at Gatwick Airport, and I think, right, I've been away for a week, I need my bread and milk, etc., and you unload the basket of your 19 items or whatever, and the guy looks at you, would you like a bag? Well, of course I want a bag. I've just come from holiday. You're not going to carry one in your hand luggage, and you're not going to carry one in your back pocket while you've been away for a week in Menorca. So why on earth should you be charged the cost of the bag that you need for your produce when you're buying from M&S or, for argument's sake, at Gatwick Airport? I absolutely, blatantly refuse to pay that 5p, and I think it's disgusting. You get charged
but the
when you have no
problem,
choice.
Yeah, but the problem is, though, that if the only way around that is to just go back to giving away free bags, but then people wouldn't buy those Hessian bags and the bags for life and all of the rest of that stuff that people didn't used to have when they just gave away free bags. You know, I just read that Tesco gave away 1.5 billion fewer single-use plastic bags after the charge came in. 1.5 billion.
It has definitely worked, and I'm not going to deny that it has worked, and I think the reasons for it speak for themselves, and I agree with it. But there has to be some give and take. You know, going back to the airport thing, it's unfair that you're expected to carry bags with you. You have an option. You either carry the bag, pay the 5p, or, well, I'm not going to go into Marks and Spencer's. I'll just go to Tesco's on the way home. It's 24 hours. You know, and grab one out the bag. Grab a bag out of the car, I should say. But there should be times that you shouldn't be charged for a bag. You don't get charged in Primark because they're paper. You know, why can't some of the supermarkets give away free paper bags that are fully recyclable? They do that in the States.
But you hear what you're saying, though. You go to M&S. If they put 5p on anything in M&S, nobody would notice the difference because it all costs a fortune anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I just have this irritation in me that I don't agree in paying for bags at an airport where you don't have any opportunity to.
Yeah,
I get that. I'm not going to carry them in my back pocket.
Right.
That's what's wrong.
I understand what you're saying. Man, about the supermarkets not paying their fair share is. Do you give any money to charity?
I do actually. I pay to.
Well, don't say the charity, but whatever it is.
I pay too.
Yeah, but whatever they are, I think the first thing that they would probably do with their money is make sure that the chief executive has got some nice furniture and refreshes carpets and make sure he's got the latest car and probably give him a chauffeur and make sure they've got the best building with the nicest view and then they'll get to spending the money on what people who give to the charity think that's what they're giving for.
But all the charities, every single charity you can name, all have that kind of ethos.
Yeah,
they've all got head offices. They've all got shiny, massive executive tables in their boardrooms. That's just a way of life, and we've got to accept that. I know that for every £1 that I give, not that whole £1 is going to that charity. But I just want to help out where I can. And I think the supermarkets, if they are going to have this allegiance where they are shouting from the rafters that we give, whatever's left out of all the costs we give to charity, well, it was proven months ago. It wasn't the case. Yeah. And they need to be honest with themselves and honest to us.
Well, I think that the trick that they're missing is, because I had no idea that any of it was going to charity. I just thought the Tesco's and Asda and Waitrose and the rest of them kept the money. Who knew that they were giving it to charity? I had got no clue.
I knew because when it first came in, my local Sainsbury's had a big advert billboard up saying that we offer the chocolate, because there was this thing, wasn't there, where you just didn't want to pay it. So they've softened the blow by saying the money you give to these bags goes to these charities, and all their logos all over it. And that's who Sainsbury's support, which I thought, all right, okay, fine.
Well, it's news to me.
See, you learn something new every day.
You do,
Don't stop at M&S at Gatwick.
Well, yeah, okay. Oh, thanks for the tip. All right. Cheers, Paul.
Cheers.
Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. Kay says, they say 5 years left for humans, maximum, once we have no pollinating insects left. Some humans are so greedy and stupid. Some? That is, people talk about the terrorist threat, but there can't be any greater threat than the absence of food. That's the end of the human race. Terrorism is... Oh, God, there the lights go. Just a couple of minutes more, that's all I ask. I wave my arms in the air like I just don't care. Terrorism is a small mosquito, even at its worst, is a small mosquito bite on the hide of humanity. You just carry on. There will be, in Somalia, there was just some roadside bomb that killed, I think, 300 people. And I bet you didn't even hear about it. That's because it happened over there. It's always going to be over there somewhere. But an ecological Armageddon, that's everywhere. And it's us what are doing it. And this is way more important than global warming. And this seems indisputable. I mean, you can argue about global warming and the man's effect on the changing weather until you're blue in the face. And there'll still be a lot of people who don't believe in, science. Some people who don't believe in facts or the evidence. But if you want a fact, you have to look no further than the front of your car. There aren't any insects on it. That's because the amount of insects, and it's not gone down by a small amount. I mean, people should be screaming about this on the hour, every hour. 75% reduction in the number of insects in the air in just 27 years. And unless I'm sadly mistaken, I don't think we're using less pesticides. I think we're using more. We're using more pesticides because a vanishingly few number of people make a ton of money by A, selling it, and B, using it. And it's not to small-scale farmers, by and large. That's not who feeds us anymore. They're massive agricultural conglomerations, farming thousands, if not millions of acres all over the world. These are the people that are using these agricultural pesticides, and they're using them in order to make a lot of money in the short term. And that's what's going to do for the human race, short-termism. 76% of flying insects have just disappeared over just 27 years. That's absolutely incredible. That we're just learning about this now is amazing. Despite the fact that I've been saying this for years, that isn't it amazing that you can drive the length and breadth of the country at great speed and not hit a single flying insect, whereas before the front windscreen of your car in the 1970s was just a smear of the remains of dead insect bodies. It used to be disgusting. I mean, at least we don't have to go through that anymore. But the downside is we won't have anything to eat. And by the way, what is the first thing that goes through an insect's mind when it hits your windscreen? That old joke. Any answers? It's legs. Jeremy says in the future we could create miniature drones programmed to replace the dead insects and cross-pollinate the plants.
Negative.
No, we can't. We'd have to make trillions of little robots. And Rick says, I must be the most naive person in the world, and I've been around the block a few times. It never occurred to me that people wouldn't pay for their bags. Are you kidding? You've been around the block, but have you ever met people before? Who knows what may happen between now and next Friday at 10 p.m. It boggles my tiny mind just to contemplate it. But whatever it happens, we'll chew it up and spit it out then.